One of the tricks that we often have to help our clients overcome is getting recruiters to buy into the concept of automation and what's in it for them. So we'll do our best, as much as we're going to talk about our automation ROI for the entire business. Ultimately, recruiters can be blockers, bless your lovely heart, to automation success, because they don't understand what's in it for them. Get off my land, stay away from my data, don't contact my candidates and clients. Then at the same breath, they're going, candidates aren't loyal anymore, clients aren't loyal anymore, recruitment's tough. And we're like, get automated to keep these people warm. Your life gets a bit easier, like a lot. But I really want you to leave this webinar with a sense of, I get why my business needs to do this for me and with me, and that you are on board. We do three things. We train recruiters to be amazing at what they do, and not just on Bullhorn, but on a number of different areas, including recruitment as it says. We're also great at recruitment tech ROI as well. That's a big deal for us. Why is it in some instances, the only people that get ROI from tech are the people you buy it from? Which is a bit silly, isn't it? And obviously the automation piece, where we really help recruiters and the lovely leaders and the lovely automators. We train them, we coach them, and for a lot of them that are just too flipping busy to do it for themselves and need stuff doing right now, cleaner data, stronger pipelines, we do a load of building as well. We've also got Recruitment Hit, and Recruitment Hit for us is our online training platform. It helps recruiters improve speed and pipeline, and it helps their leaders get more ROI from their systems and their people and their data. So if you're not a client on Bullhorn, on Recruitment Hit right now, you can sign up for a free trial. Be my flipping guest. The more, the merrier. I mean, if you are a client, obviously, well done you. Best decision you ever made. So we've got a webinar next month. So make a note of this, although I will be badgering you, because if anyone's automated, it's Barclay Jones. But we've got a webinar all about tracking candidates, clients, and cash. You want to see what your automations are doing. You want to understand where automation is waking stuff up. So we're going to do a webinar specifically on how to track the money. Yeah, show me the money, and how to see things, how to spot opportunities, how to see candidates, the wood for the trees. You know, there's a lot of stuff going on right now. Automation should be shining a light directly on the bits that you need to do better. I'm interested in your Bullhorn adoption. Tell me, give me a minute of your time. Your team as a whole, yeah? Are they Bullhorn first? Every time I've got a source from it, I'm going to sell from it, I'm going to organize my time, I'm going to manage my team, I'm going to see what jobs I need to convert. Are you Bullhorn first? Are you Bullhorn last? When you get a minute, when you got 5 minutes, maybe on a Friday, because you gotta make a placement, you gotta send an invoice. Are you Bullhorn sometimes? You do your best, but it's not strictly speaking. And is it Bullhorn never? I mean, shame on you, obviously.
One of our clients recently said that it's Bullhorn only.
Well, and again, damn him for nicking my thunder. Yeah. He's currently how many? There's about 6 people in his team. High speed recruitment. That's not the name of them, by the way. Don't search for them. He has bought Recruitment Hit, and he wants his team to use Bullhorn better. He's bought some time with us to build out and coach on more automations. And then what he's also done is turned off LinkedIn Recruiter and job boards and gone to Bullhorn only. Bring it on. He has saved a fortune. Sorry, carry on, Wayne.
No, I was going to say, and he's turned off Excel as well. So all those spreadsheets that people had, they now are forced to go into Bullhorn. However, he said it's adding huge amounts of value to their process. Everyone's now focused on the Bullhorn system and the data that's in it.
Totally.
Yeah, they got LinkedIn on, which is really important.
Absolutely. We've got another webinar next month talking about Bullhorn, specifically about candidate management. Last week's was candidate shortage and how to get more data out of your Bullhorn system if you're struggling to find them. There's some really cool tips in there. The webinar is live on the website, but the new one for next month is about candidate management tips. So how to get those lovely people to actually focus on starting, removing the dropouts, managing those counter offers, really managing that job through to placement. You know, don't just leave it to chance. Candidates and clients do have minds of their own, and people nagging them on the outside. Stay in control. So that's what that one is about. So I'm going to just warm you guys and gals up from a webinar perspective and get you ready for Wayne. We know that data in the recruitment industry often has very little value, which is not good. When you go to people's websites or recruitment websites, they say, we are niche suppliers, we have candidate pools, we manage talent, and then they advertise. And I'm like, that's a bit of a contradiction, isn't it? Or then they spend loads of money on LinkedIn because they're always sourcing. Another contradiction. Yeah, not good, not good. You're sending out some very powerful messages when you don't manage your data set, because that's the bit your clients are paying for, as well as your time and your expertise. They're paying you for stuff that they can't find for themselves. And certainly during an economic crunch, you're going to feel that. So you need to become more dependent on your own gorgeous warm data. But in the past, the reason people haven't done that is because it's a bit of a mess. Why is it a bit of a mess? Because you didn't take control of it. Chicken and egg. Yeah, we can help with that, by the way, can't we, Wayne? Got a lovely clean turbo product where we work with clients to get the data cleaned up. So that's something for you to think about, because it does degrade at a rapid rate. And cleaning is a two-phase. It's clean up now and keep cleaning as it comes in. Yeah, a two-handed approach. That's something for you to guys and gals to think about as well. The next thing as well is that most candidates that you need to place, you've already got. And a lot of my clients tell me this after I've asked the question. They go, yeah, about 80%, 70%, 60%. That's still way too many percentages. You've already got the candidates, but you're paying good money and time to get them from elsewhere. And LinkedIn and job boards love that strategy, don't they? They love you for having that strategy. Whereas I go, no, not good enough. Yeah, let's end 2024 with a really strong database, with strong Bullhorn first culture, and clients going, flipping out, that was quick. Well done. Couldn't have done that for myself. Have more money. That'd be nice. Talking of money, we're limiting our ability to make money because our data is in a bit of a mess. Our processes are not quite as stringent as we'd like, and automation isn't doing what we want it to do. Hence why we're talking about that today. We want to stop wasting time. Those of you that source from Bullhorn first will know you place quicker than if you source from elsewhere. So again, automation should be kicking the butt of this. Stop wasting time sourcing when you don't need to. Yeah. Why aren't you advertising jobs to candidates you've already got in your system? Yeah, please. That's what automation ROI is all about. But if you don't manage automation to help you deliver your entire recruitment lifecycle, if you're only using it, like I was speaking to a client yesterday who doesn't have Bullhorn automation and is currently testing like a marketing automation tool, which basically just pokes people in the face on LinkedIn. And I'm like, you need automation to do more than that very small part of the recruitment life cycle. It needs to manage the whole flipping thing. You'll need more staff and more time when you don't have automation. So that's something else for you to think about. And obviously, you lovely recruiters, think about how much more productive you could be if you basically let automation have its wicked way with your business. The other thing as well is you are spending way too much time and money on LinkedIn. It does not give you a competitive edge. Yeah, it just enables you to bring more crap onto your system. This isn't good. Yeah, we don't say to our clients, we think we do office management recruitment, but if you give us a job, we'll advertise it. About 50% of the people apply are absolutely no good, but we'll chuck them on the system, which means that we can't really source from it anymore. And then the next job, I need to advertise that one again. And the client's going, well, I could do that for myself. And of course, we know there's a lot more to recruitment than advertising, but for some reason, we spend a lot of time doing that. So I want you to be thinking about that. And I equally want to know, do you have a strategy this year for reducing your reliance and spends on LinkedIn and job boards? I don't have a problem with LinkedIn as a system. I don't want to sound like a Luddite. I'm about speed. I'm about pipeline. I'm about resilience. Yeah, and LinkedIn doesn't give you that. It often gives you too much stuff to work with. It also creates a massive state of FOMO in our industry. And I'm not happy about that. I want you guys and gals to be quicker, leaner, meaner, and more effective, and ultimately happier. So I want you to be thinking about LinkedIn and how is it adding value? And if it is adding value, could there be better value elsewhere? Yeah, so that's something to think about. And interestingly, not many of you are saying that LinkedIn's offering you that value, but most of you are very worried about turning it off. You want the choice. So that's something else to think about. I need you to think about whether or not you're limiting ROI by not basically engaging with it at the right level. Yeah, for me, it's not just a bit of software that you get in a box and you have a bit of training and you hope it works. It's a way of being. It's a consciousness. It's a strategy. It ain't complicated. Yeah, it's a laser. Where do you want to point it? What do you want to get rid of? Yeah, what problems do you need to fix? What territories do you need to open? What part of the recruitment life cycle do you need to go faster with? Do you need to use automation to train your staff to be better? because it can do that. You needed to clean your data. It can do that. Can you make it reduce counter offers and dropouts? Too flipping right. Think about all the issues you want to fix and all the opportunities you want to uncover, and then ask the question, what can automation do? And if you don't know the answer, you ask us, because we've got 101 ways of it doing that for you. And again, if it's, I want to reduce the tens of thousands of pounds I'm spending on external systems, it can do that. This is a note. I always talk about this, my dig up stupid model. Yeah. We need you focusing on the green data within your database. Yeah. Otherwise, you end up focusing on the red stuff that's on the outside. It takes a long time to bring in. Yesterday's data, how can you keep it warm? How can you use automation to make it grow so money grows on trees? How could you use automation to get that dormant data back into the green zone? How could you use automation to not worry about that black, oily, nasty, dirty slick at the bottom? But invariably, what happens is we search everything everywhere all at once. And I want you to dig up, stupid. Right, I'm going to hand over to Wayne, but my final question for you is, I want to know about automation. I want to understand how it's working for you right now. Is it costing you more than you're spending on it? Or sorry, costing you more money than you're making?
I'm assuming, Lisa, that everyone on this course is going to be taking the first option. They're not sure.
Well, we'll find out.
That's the reason why they're here.
Absolutely. Great. Nicely led. Brilliant. Brilliant stuff. Absolutely.
Brilliant. Thanks, Lisa. So the idea of Lisa put a stat up a second ago, which is 50% of applicants that that apply for a job are probably irrelevant. I'd argue that, speaking to clients recently, that may be up at 80 or 90%, which is highly unproductive time for your recruiters to have to sift through all of that rubbish when you could be engaging people in your database. Now, a lot of you said you're Bullhorn first, which is fantastic. But there's some just average stats here. If you need to get these published and remind people, 72% of the time, candidates that you place were already on your database. And the average time to place, this is a Bullhorn analytics stat. They did some analysis. The average time it takes to place somebody when you source them from your CRM is 40 days. If you go external, the time frame that they see is 60 days. So you're increasing the amount of time it takes to actually get people placed by just following a process. That means you don't engage the candidates on your database. Wouldn't it be great if you could, here we go, build your communities? Why reach out to 100 people, or why have 100 people apply if you know that 80 or 90% of the people are going to be irrelevant? So if you're able to start looking at your database as more of a community and start building out those communities, there are 100 Java developers that I know are brilliant. Therefore, I want to reach out to those people and engage them about a job, Java development job that I've got. Now, I know that the 100 people, they're not all going to come back. 10 to 20% of people are active at any one time, but those 20 people are going to be relevant. They're going to be the people that I want to speak to. So that's a much more productive way of working. So build communities, build those talent pools within your Bullhorn system and get people to engage with them. Okay, today we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to look at ROI. There's a couple of areas that I really want to highlight though. ROI is one of those areas that lots of clients have recently approached us and said, look, how do we prove ROI? How do we know that this is working? How do I get my recruiters on board? What can I show them? How do I go and find that data? So today I'm going to talk to you about why you need ROI, some of the stats, some of the information that you can be relaying, or some of the ideas that you need to be pushing back onto the business. I'm going to be talking to you about what ROI potentially you might want. So some ideas around what people commonly look for, and then some other ideas about what else I've seen, which could be helping you. The most important thing, where do I find the ROI? It's not easy. There's lots of different places that you could potentially find that. I've got some ideas around that, and I'm going to give you a specific example as well. There we go. So why do you need ROI? Well, first and foremost, you need to prove the value of the automation that you're switching on. It's great, we've had a great idea, but how do we prove, how do we know that it's actually working? So being able to prove the concept of the automation that you've just built, being able to push that out and tell your recruiters, this is why we're doing it. This is hopefully the ROI or the feedback or the benefit that you're going to get from doing this. Again, you're selling the what's in it for me. You need to get buy-in from the recruiters or your business to prove that this is going to work. Ideally, you want to be able to future-proof your business. You're able to see that you've got a lot more money coming in the business, and you can directly attribute that to some automations. That means you've got better candidates, better jobs, better opportunities for your recruiters to work on. That's going to help you future-proof your business, and that all comes back to potentially proving the benefit of what you're doing. It's also, look, we've already talked about reducing reliance on systems. The other big thing as well, something that came up earlier this week, Wednesday, speaking to somebody, and he said, look, productivity, we want to sort of improve productivity. Maybe it's been stuck in the doldrums the last 20 years, but we should be looking at improving productivity, not necessarily increasing the headcount within our business. So reducing the need to hire across the business may be one of those areas that you need to prove, ultimately increasing sales scope and territory. Here's an example of some ROI that we had to prove for a client recently. We've got an automation called Advertise Jobs. It's a really good automation, takes a couple of hours to get set up, takes a little bit longer to roll that out. But overall, we know that through this process, you're going to make money. So how do we prove that? Well, to this particular client, we had to go back and say, look, there are 6 direct placements that have come from this automation that equated to £42,000 worth that was generated over the last 8 months. When we sat down with the recruiter, we actually asked the question, what's the benefit you've received or you've experienced from this automation or these automations? The gentleman said, probably about 2 to 3 hours a week I'm saving from sourcing. Now, if you extrapolate that across the 100 people across the business, that's a huge amount of time saved across the business. That's a really good stat that you can be sort of relaying back. The other stat that we sort of looked at as well is we looked at the number of new candidates being added and the number of applications that were being added to the job. That was down by about 18%. So again, they reduced their spend there. So we're able to prove all of that from that one automation. That's the sort of information that particular client wanted, and this is the sort of information that you may be wanting to prove regarding your specific automation. Okay. So it's great that you've filled that in. Here's some of the examples of what ROI people are looking for, and I've split these into 2 areas: the common ROI and the other ROI specifically that we're going to talk about. The common ROI, I've already mentioned, is the opens, the clicks, the engagements that have been taken. It's useful information, but does that relate or convert into money in some way, shape or form? Engaged candidates, the number of people that you've got engaged, that's a good indication as to how your community, how engaged they are, how loyal they are to your business, as well as the feedback you get. The NPS scores are really important. NPS looks at loyalty, or the likely loyalty of that candidate or that sales contact. So it's a really good ROI stat to look at. Is what we're doing as a business relating back into some form of loyalty? I like that. I like that idea a lot. However, there's some other ROI that I've come across over the years. The first thing is whether or not we're looking at global ROI or whether we're not looking at individual specific stats. And a classic global ROI could be website traffic. One of our clients we did an implementation with, they immediately came out and said, look, one thing we need to get is more people visiting our website. So we took that with them during their implementation in January. In February, we reviewed their ROI stats or their traffic. They went from 2,500 visits to 7,500 visits. I would suggest that was a significant improvement and return on investment over what they wanted to prove, and they're very, very happy with that specific stats. We talked about leads, we talked about conversions. That's obviously one that you want to be looking at. If you're wanting to look at how many candidates did I approach and how many placements did I make, or how many leads did I generate, then they are all really good stats that you need to be able to prove and want to be able to sort of show back to the recruiters this is working. Number of CVs or resumes received, that may be something. If you're doing a re-engagement campaign, you may set yourself a specific stat that you want to look at. Talked about as well data cleansing. We all want a cleaner, more engaged database, a trusted candidates and community database. So looking at the number of fields that have been updated, I remember a long time ago, Lisa Jones used to have a lovely spreadsheet in which we were trying to get all the recruiters to increase the cleanliness of their data by 5% each month or each week, I think it was. There was a lovely league table that was going up and a bottle of champagne basically for the person that got to 100% first. But again, field updated, keeping that data cleansed could be a stat as well. The number of active or engaged candidates is a clear indication as to how good your community could be. And ultimately, and this is the more difficult one to prove, it's the recruiter. How much time is the recruiter saving? How much more productive are we going to be able to be through these automations? So some really good stats in there from an ROI perspective. If I just move on to what other considerations as well that you need to think about when you're going to think about your ROI. I've got this term, which is primary and secondary ROI. The initial idea of we want to get more people onto the database or more people onto the website. That's great, but what's the secondary ROI from that? What's the additional ROI that you could prove from that? So always be thinking about initially this bit of ROI that I want to prove, but is there some additional ROI that we can prove later on to actually say that's the two of them are linked? A really important process here is who's going to collate your ROI. If you've got several different systems that you need to go through, that takes time. I mean, if you've got 100 automations running, that's almost a full-time job, or could be deemed to be a full-time job. So try and keep your ROI as easy to find as possible. Another key thing as well is if you're going to start with ROI, then you need to be thinking about where am I now? So you need to be taking some baselines, like we did with the client with the Google Analytics stats. 2,500 candidates were there basically visiting the website. They've now got this graph that they're tracking all of the automations that they switch on, and also the upward curve of that. But initially there were some baselines as to this is what we're currently doing. You've got to be realistic about your ROI. Is it realistically achievable to collate everything you want? If you're looking at some really unique stats, then you need to think about where am I going to get those and how difficult might it be to try and prove that data. There's lots of different places that you can find the ROI as well. So Bullhorn, automation, analytics, whether or not you've got a data warehouse, your phone system, your finance system, etc., etc. So going back to the ROI achievable, if you need to go visit all those places, it will take time to do that. So try and be realistic. Something else that's really, really important, the metrics page. Lots of people go to the metrics. Do you understand how to read those metrics? It's not obvious sometimes that you get 130% open rate. Well, what does that mean? Why am I getting that figure? So if you've got to understand, if you're going to be using the metrics, make sure you really, really understand them. There's always the question of so what? I've proved that I've got more people onto my website, but so what? What am I doing with that data? Again, that goes back to the secondary ROI. What am I going to do with that information? As well, at the ROI, you need to be thinking about how often do I need to collate this? Is it just once in a while? It needs to be done daily? I need to be able to prove this and feed this back. Is it a weekly or monthly or even a quarterly cycle? Again, when you're building out that ROI schedule or that ROI plan, you need to be thinking about how often you need to be creating it. The other key thing here as well is ROI is only as good as the information that goes into the system at the front end. So you must have consistency in your Bullhorn usage in order to get better, accurate results. It's a really, really important process. I've also got here as well is the information that you're going to be reporting on. Some of it will be really, really accurate. Some of it may need to be inferred or an indication that this is working. So some of the stats that you can see either in the automation system, in your data warehouse, or in Bullhorn, again, talked about those recruiters inputting the information inaccurately. It's not accurate, then your results, your actual ROI results won't be accurate as well. So therefore, you need to make some inferred results. Okay, let's talk about process. So everyone always goes, I've got a great idea for an automation. They go away, build the automation, and then somebody goes, oh, what about the ROI? And it's like, I hadn't thought about that. So here's a classic process that we train our automation implementation clients and our turbo clients on. There's 3 steps to essentially when you're building an automation. One, what's the idea? Then it moves into the build process, and then eventually it moves into the release process. When you're building out your idea, your automation, it's in your backlog, then you need to be thinking about what's the objective? Why am I doing this? Immediately, I need to be thinking about what's the desired benefits or the outputs I want, and how am I going to measure that? That's really important. If you do it at the start of the process rather than right at the end, that means that can inform you about how to build the automation as well. So other stats in there as well. What's the list criteria? What's the journey, et cetera, it will test all those sort of filled in via a template that we've got. What does that look like overall? Well, we've got an entire journey here. We've got the ideation, which I just talked about, the idea. We build a business case. That was that idea there a second ago. Well, ideally, you should get those business cases signed off. Yeah, if you're a bigger business and you've got hundreds of people across that, you need to be focused and be able to spend your time productively on the right areas. That may mean your steering group says, actually, we're looking at business development this month or this quarter. Can you really focus on those ideas for automation? So business case, whatever your business case for your automation is, make sure ROI is added in there and it's been discussed across the business. This is what we're trying to achieve and what we want to improve or prove in terms of ROI. You get it signed off, it moves into a sprint. We then move into the circular process, which is the build and the review process. So we build our list, we build our journey, we build the content, we move it into UAT, we release it across the business. And then this process isn't done as often as I would like, or often as I see. It's the review and the refine process. When you're reviewing and refining your automation, that's when you can be looking, checking back. Are we achieving the ROI that we set out in our business case? That's a really important process. If we're not, then we've got this dotted line here, which is, well, we need to refine it. So let's review the list, let's review the journey, let's review the content, and let's get it back into testing. Some of these things can be done through A/B split testing if you're using those as a feature. But this entire journey, when you're building your automation, if you're following this, then that helps bed in your ROI across your entire process. Here's a specific example of ROI that you want to be sort of the example that I showed you a second ago. There are lots of different places that we went to find the information for this advertised job process, but they wanted to know the number of placements that were being made from sourcing candidates directly from Bullhorn. So the first thing we had to do here is we had to make sure that within the Bullhorn submission page, when they search for candidates and they shortlisted candidates into the job, the source said Bullhorn search. That was a really important process. We're able to then directly track the candidates that came from Bullhorn versus the other locations. Without that one field being updated, we're going to really struggle trying to prove the ROI for this. Once we got that field in place and we're able to track that, then from an automation perspective, we're able to look at the list, which basically says, have they been sent the advertised job process? Have they been made a placement within a certain period of time, obviously when that advertised job process was switched on? And on top of that, have they also been submitted or shortlisted against a job, et cetera. So we built an automation list to try and identify the data. From that, we're also then able to sort of infer some information, which was, we were able to look at the individual records of those people that came back and say, I can clearly see this person has been placed directly from that job, or they actually made a placement after they got were re-engaged with. Didn't place for that job, but they were placed for another job shortly afterwards. Those are some of the parameters or the variables that we need to be thinking about. Other things that we did, we looked at the job board spend. The client already had a job board spend graph. So when we looked at that and we saw when we switched the automation off, we saw a big drop, literally a big drop overnight in terms of that, which was great. And then the other obvious thing was the feedback from the recruiters. So again, that refining process was really important. We sat down with the recruiters after a few weeks, got their feedback. We refined the process quite a lot. There's a lot of things that they wanted to improve on, so we improved those things. But we asked the question, what benefit, what other things are you getting from this? And that was a really important process. So as I say, six placements, £42,000, 2 to 3 hours a week saved, and a reduction in the external job board spend. The next big question is, where do we get the ROI from? Already talked several times about this. The metrics page is useful. Again, understand it, make sure you really understand what the metrics are talking about, those percentages, et cetera. Like I've just shown you in automation, you can build lists. You can do advanced searches within Bullhorn Automation. You can obviously do all of this information as well, or some of this information from Bullhorn itself or your other CRM system. Notifications are useful of being able to collate information and forward those onto yourself. So, for example, I could have built an automation that looked at and tracked the number of placements we've made with candidates that have also been included in the advertised job journey. That was a notification that gets sent through to me on a weekly basis. There's some information there that I can look at and refer. There's also the export to CSV. So once you've built your list in Bullhorn Automation, right down the bottom, export to CSV produces a lovely spreadsheet with all the information you might need. Then you can go through that and use that. You know, if you're into pivot tables, you can pivot table it, etc., etc. Automation trackers, I've just talked about that idea of being able to build an automation that tracks the ROI that I'm looking for and sending me the information on a once a day or once a week basis. Again, I can take that information, look at it, and then update my baseline trackers. If you've got an analytics package in your business, then there are ways and means that you can probably interrogate the data directly from those data warehouses, Bullhorn Analytics, etc., etc. Tracking website visits, you look at Google Analytics. So what other analytics packages do you have in your business that's able to help you track? NPS is a great way of tracking our ROI as well, that loyalty thing. And obviously surveys and feedback. Are people engaging with the surveys? Are you getting the right sort of feedback that you're wanting? Is your NPS score greater than 8 or 9 or overall greater than 50? So lots of places that you can get ROI. Other areas that I haven't included in there are finance packages, etc., etc. But we'll look at this separately. Okay. So, that was a quick stop. Lots and lots of areas that you can identify ROI. When you're building out your automation, you need to build the ROI into what it is you're doing from the outset. That's the key step, I think, with any proving of the ROI. I've got an idea. This is what I want to prove. Now let's go and build the automation around how to prove that. That'll make life a lot simpler rather than I've got an idea, let's go and build it. Oh, and let's figure out how we get the ROI from it. Yeah, just make that one simple change. All of a sudden, you'll start understanding better ways of being able to generate the ROI, where you need to go, whether or not it's realistic about what you're trying to prove. Obviously, if you don't have baselines currently, you're not tracking those, then you do need to start thinking about where you're going to get that information from. And most importantly, as I've said, define your automation process. If you define it in the way that I've shown you today, that will seriously help you. Okay. Obviously, if you've got any ideas, help or support, then give us a call.
Right. Then, so obviously bear us in mind for anything that you need in terms of training, coaching or building, whether it be Bullhorn, recruitment or automation. Automation is one thing, training is another. I look at it as like a bookend. What can automation do to free up your recruiters to be amazing? And what training do they need, or do you need, to then use your time more effectively? And evidently, we've got a lot of content on our website that will help you with that. All of it is free. Evidently, we like paying it forward. So check all of that stuff out. Remember our webinars for next month as well. We're going to follow the money, candidates, clients, and cash, using automation to do that. And we also want to help recruiters really actively manage their candidate life cycle so they don't lose out. You know, winning a job is one thing, place it and invoicing it, that's a whole different ball game. Obviously, bear in mind our lovely Recruitment Hit platform. If you've not tried it, you need to. We've got loads of content on there, whether it be Teams, the free version of LinkedIn, Bullhorn Analytics, Automation, Daxtra, Interview, Pager. You could test me on a lot, as well as loads of recruitment training. And we're currently just building out a really cool temp recruitment training course as well. So loads of stuff in there for you to get your teeth into. But really good to see you today. Take care, everybody.
Cheers. Bye-bye.